I failed for years trying to change my family's life, but why did my breakthrough begin the day a stranger told me my future was already written? The day everything changed didn't feel special at all, and that's what still messes with my head. I was broke, tired, and carrying the quiet shame of years that went nowhere, when a stranger looked at me like they already knew how my story would end. I didn't believe in fate back then. Now I don't know what else to call it. I'm telling this now from the other side of it all, years later, when the dust has settled and the noise has finally gone quiet. But for most of my life, I was just Daniel Moore, age 34 at the time, a man who had failed so many times that even hope felt embarrassing. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and thin walls. My dad, Robert, was 58 when all this started, his back bent from factory work that never paid enough. My mom, Elena, 55, had hands permanently rough from cleaning houses that weren't ours. My younger sister, Mia, 21, was smarter than all of us combined and already exhausted by life before it had really started. From the outside, we looked like millions of other families. Inside, everything felt heavy. Bills on the table, silent dinners, the kind of quiet that comes from people pretending they're not scared. I took that fear personally. By my mid-20s, I had convinced myself it was my responsibility to change everything. Not just help a little, not just survive. I wanted to lift my family out of that life completely. I wanted my parents to rest. I wanted my sister to dream without calculating the cost. So I tried. God, did I try. I jumped from job to job. Warehouse work, delivery driving, call centers that drained my soul one rejection at a time. I started side hustles before that word became trendy. Online stores that never sold anything. Freelance gigs that paid late or not at all. Business ideas that sounded brilliant at 2 a.m. and stupid by sunrise. Every failure stacked on the last one. At 30, I moved back home. That hurt more than I'll admit out loud. Sleeping in my childhood room again felt like proof that I was exactly where life expected me to stay. My dad never said a word about it, but I could see the disappointment he tried to hide. My mom tried to stay positive in that forced way that actually makes things worse. Have you ever felt like your effort didn't matter, no matter how hard you worked? I was angry, but mostly at myself. Angry that I cared so much and still couldn't make it work. Angry that time kept moving while I stayed stuck. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the feeling that I was running out of chances. By the time I turned 34, I had stopped telling people my plans. I'd learned that silence hurt less than explaining another failure. I went through the motions. Wake up, work, come home, repeat. Life felt like something happening around me, not to me. Then came that day. It was an ordinary afternoon, the kind you forget as soon as it's over. I was walking back from a temporary job interview I already knew I wouldn't get. My phone battery was dead. My head was loud. I remember thinking that this was probably it, that maybe some people just don't break through, no matter how badly they want it. That's when the stranger crossed my path. I won't describe them in detail, because honestly, nothing about their appearance stood out. What stood out was the certainty in the way they looked at me. Not curiosity, not judgment, certainty. They didn't stop me, didn't block my way, just turned their head slightly as I passed and said something that landed like a punch to the chest. They said my future was already written. No warning, no explanation. I kept walking, but my body reacted before my mind did. My heart sped up, my hands went cold. It wasn't fear exactly, it was recognition, like something inside me had been tapped awake. For the rest of that day, I couldn't shake it. Not the words themselves, but how they were said. No mystery, no drama, just a statement. I replayed it over and over. Was it a joke, a scam, a coincidence, or was it something else? That night, I barely slept. Not because I believed in prophecy, but because for the first time in years, my mind wasn't stuck on what had already gone wrong. It was stuck on what might still be ahead. Here's the part that surprised me later. Nothing magical happened right away. No sudden luck, no instant success. The world didn't change overnight. I did. The next morning, something was different. Subtle, but real. I didn't feel motivated. I felt calm, like the pressure had eased just enough for me to breathe. For years, I had been chasing outcomes. That comment forced me to think differently. If my future was already written, what if my job wasn't to panic, but to show up? What would you do if you believed, even a little, that things might work out? I stopped trying to fix everything at once. Instead of 5 plans, I chose one. Not the most exciting one. The most realistic one. A skill I had brushed off for years because it didn't sound impressive. Writing. I had always been good with words. Emails, reports, helping friends explain things, but I had dismissed it because it didn't sound like a real escape plan. That day, I didn't overthink it. I just started. I wrote at night after work. Not to become famous, not to get rich, just to get better. I treated it like training instead of a gamble. Weeks passed, then months. Most people around me didn't notice a thing. That was fine. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. I was building quietly, the way houses are built brick by brick, not announced before they exist. The failures didn't stop. Rejections came. Silence followed. But something had shifted. I didn't take it as proof that I was doomed. I took it as part of the process. One small opportunity came, then another. Tiny wins that wouldn't impress anyone else, but meant everything to me. A paid article, a recurring client, a month where I didn't have to borrow money. I watched my parents notice the change before I said a word. My dad smiled more. My mom stopped asking if I was okay every 5 minutes. Mia started asking me for advice, and that alone felt unreal. Do you know how strange it feels when the people you wanted to save start believing in you again? The real breakthrough didn't come with fireworks. It came with consistency, with patience, with the quiet understanding that I didn't need to outrun my past. I just needed to stop letting it decide my future. A year later, I moved out again. This time for good. 2 years later, I paid off my parents' debts. Not in a dramatic gesture. Just quietly, because they had already sacrificed enough. Now, when I think about that stranger, I don't wonder if they knew something supernatural. I wonder if they simply saw something I had forgotten. That I wasn't broken, just buried under fear. Maybe the future isn't written in stone. Maybe it's written in effort, belief, and timing. Maybe sometimes we just need someone to remind us that the story isn't over yet. If you're still reading this, ask yourself something honestly. What would change if you stopped assuming it was too late? Because I spent years thinking I had failed my family, when the truth was I was still becoming the person who could help them. The biggest lesson I learned isn't about success or money. It's about patience with yourself. About understanding that progress doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers. And sometimes, all it takes is one unexpected moment to shift how you see everything. So tell me, what do you think that stranger meant? Fate, coincidence, or something else entirely? If this story made you feel something, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support means more than you know.